I don't want to take so much time talking, but I can tell you I have got two exciting guests. One has been here before, and another one we have been hunting. All I have been hunting, getting this interview to happen, and it is finally happening. So let me introduce you to my guests. Now, as I have just said, the first guest is new to the program, and on the left hand side, far right, it could be left depending how you are watching. She's been here on AIL TV. Uh, Her name is Horesia Nyawade. She's doing amazing things in South Africa, and in fact, later on as we go on within the interview, you will see what she does, and of course, we will encourage you to check her website out. You will be amazed. Then we have Zainab. Zainab, I don't know your second name, but you will, of course, mention your second name. So now, without wasting time, let us jump into our virtual world. I'm going to start off with Abuja, Nigeria. And this is to Zainab. Please, Zainab, tell our viewers what you do and where you are.
Thank you very much, JJ. My name is Zainab Umar. I am in Abuja currently, loving spending time in Africa, in Nigeria. Usually, I'm based in London. I work at the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, formerly as the lead for communications, and now I'm responsible for taking charge and spearheading the youth initiative. So, really looking at engaging young Africans on the development agenda for the continent. So, this is me in I wear multiple hats. I'm also a trustee, Advocate International, and advisory counselor at the Foreign Policy Center. I'm really passionate about Africa, about international development, and about reading and encouraging and creating a culture of reading and elevating reading, especially for uh, young African girls. I come from actually I was inspired to really drive this passion of mine around reading to make sure that young girls have spaces to engage with novels, literary materials, and allow them to enter this world of imagination, this world where they can expand their horizons. Because
Okay,
of the
so
pandemic, I
let us pause there because you are going to talk more about it. Let us go to Johannesburg, South Africa. Horatia.
Hello, a man called Jay. Thank you for having me back on your show. It's also such an honor to be on the same interview as Zainab. It's nice to see you in person. I'm Orasia Nyawade. I call myself the courage builder and the accountability master. Just like Zainab, I also wear two hats. There's my baby, Boka, which I've spoken about on the show before, and my recently launched community of African women under rsia.com, where I just help them live and grow from inconsistency and into stability. So that's me.
Fantastic. So now I'm going to, because Horatia, we have spoken to you in the previous interview. Let
Yeah,
me turn to Zainab. Zainab,
absolutely.
I just want to know we are in Africa, and Africa is always seen as a continent that is either developing or it is slowly developing or it is not developing, depending to whom you are talking to. Now, what drives you? What do you want to see Africa go?
This is a super interesting question. Where do I want to see Africa go? I think the vision for Africa has been clearly articulated in the African Union's what does Africa want? The Agenda 2063. Um, Clearly, there's a roadmap where Africa should be heading to by 2063. You know, a continent that's connected, a continent that's doing business with itself, a continent that has its own people charged with taking the continent forward. So, if you ask me, where do I want to see Africa go in the future? Actually, all of that is already described in the Agenda 2063 document set out by the African Union. So, the Africa we want is where I think Africa should be moving forward. And I really want to come back to this point of development in the hands of Africans, because this is where we understand the context that we operate in. This is where we understand change that can happen, whether incrementally or whether there's spaces to leapfrog. And I mean, Africa is not a monolith. There's 54 African countries, each with their own characteristics and development stages, but a lot of commonalities. So the best learning, I believe, can happen where you have country to country, region to region, coordination and cooperation. And it's fantastic to see some of the initiatives that are coming out of the African Union, that are coming out of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. So it's fantastic to see that. Uh, for instance, with the a continental trade agreement, there's a lot more of a movement towards the continent trading with itself. And I think, with the advent of the internet and social media, we see a lot of young people coming together, coordinating and mobilizing. So when in Zimbabwe, there's a hashtag of, Zimbabwean Lives Matter, or when in Nigeria, there's a hashtag of End SARS, these discussions around what citizens are really fighting for and protesting catches on in other parts of the continent. So we come together and we stand in solidarity. I think now is a really good time. We have a roadmap clearly set out with Agenda 2063. We have a youth that is, mobilizing, that is active, and that's leaning forward in the continent's development. So we should really maximize this moment and jump on the wave of transformation and this idea and this desire to change the continent for the better.
Now, that is fantastic. You see, you guys, you excite me because you know how to compress information all in one, in a matter of say maybe 1 minute, and you are able to articulate what is exactly you want to see. We will come back to you again, Horacia. We are in Johannesburg. Right. So, Oresia, you are doing amazing things already, and I can see probably uh, from what Zainab is saying, what the Africa that you want to see, you're already doing it because when I check on your website, you have. Even on your website, you have got VUCA University. But what am I talking about? You talk, talk through your what you want to see, the Africa you want to see.
Thank you so much for that question, Jay. The Africa I want to see is the Africa that I am currently actively living and curating around me. So I'm very honored when you say that. I think our project, our company, VUCA, has been really big in really showing and me contributing to what Africa I want to see. So our biggest mission there is just to give African owned brands, businesses, and people a digital presence. And I suppose, just like Zainab was saying, that because of the internet, borders are being erased and there's more room to collaborate. And the biggest thing that businesses, services need, the biggest gap has always been access to market. And so at VUCA, what we're doing there is our role is to essentially give these brands some sort of access so that they can interact with their potential customers and be able to get social and financial gain from the type of commercial exchanges or discussions that will be had because of that visibility. So the three main platforms that we have to do that is the monthly the e-magazine that you can see up there. The Book of Varsity is just us upskilling these vendors and creatives and talents in Africa. So teaching them digital skills. And then the final, I mean, one other one is the marketplace, so that there are vendors who have products. And finally, it's the podcast, so that we can be in the game for people who are not really keen on reading or browsing for products. We're still reaching that market. So that is the Africa I want to see, and that's how I'm contributing to seeing the Africa that I'm imagining, that's self-sufficient and actually getting that trade to happen within each other.
So now, you see, as I said, you guys, you have got everything worked out. The answers just come straight to the point. Now, this is the question that I want to ask. While you are working, I can see now women are actually now they are full on 100%. They have really energized. They are bringing in a kind of thinking. Last night we were talking about women in politics, and we know that like Rwanda is got 67% of the parliamentarians are women. I don't know whether women are worried there in Rwanda. No. So while you are doing all this, are you working in conjunction with young boys or with young men? This you can both of you can answer it in your own way.
Hmm.
Zainab.
Um, I think I'll respond to you by just giving an example of a project that I've started, which is really looking at. I was mentioning about getting young girls to read. I think there's a clear need, especially in the pandemic, where we've seen schools close. In the Nigerian context, we've seen a lot of insecurity around schools and kidnappings. So you find a lot of people are already out of school because of COVID containment measures. This means a lot of young girls would be burdened with domestic responsibilities. The likelihood of falling pregnant high. Teenage pregnancies, actually, we're seeing the numbers are increasing. Um, so really, my project is aimed for young girls, getting them to read and encouraging that kind of leisure slash escape. Uh, However, you don't work in isolation. So when you're working in schools and you've got boys, you also include them. Because when we're talking about the development, or when we're talking about inequality issues, it's not a woman only issue. It's a whole societal issue. So we need both young boys, young girls, but also men and women around to be engaged in making their own contribution so that we can get to a better gender parity, a place of better gender parity. I think for me, when I was designing this project, Girls Reading, it's looking specifically at the need, which is girls are disadvantaged in compared to boys. But having said that, when you are doing your projects, when you are doing your design, you do make sure, and it's just good practice all around, you make sure you're inclusive. So you have perspectives from different people, different genders, different ages, because that makes whatever you deliver better. So when we talk about the need for representation and the need for having a development with inclusive voices, it's so that the models and the projects that we design are robust and we're learning and doing things better. So approaching any kind of development project with an exclusively girls only, exclusively boys only, has embedded problems, I would say.
Horacia.
Um, the question being if we are involving any youth, correct?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I think that my main role within the entrepreneur and vision for Africa space is to just give people access and digitize them. And so if we have youth, for example, based on the conversation that you and Zainab were having a little bit earlier, and that she's also having right now, our upcoming theme is around edutech. And we have noticed, we're just trying to figure out, we've seen different companies in South Africa, in Kenya, all innovating within that space, and just trying to see how can they provide education that doesn't necessarily require for you to be in the house. And so that way we've also spoken to parents of youth, trying to find out what that change has been for them. And my answer in short is just letting you know that the service we offer really just touches different people's lives from different types of spaces. We've also had different youth who've recently graduated from high school, are waiting to get into university. They're exploring their writing skills. They want to contribute blogs. They want to contribute poems. And a lot of the drive that we have at VUCA is that before, it would take forever, for example, for something like BBC to cover the work that they're doing. And so we essentially giving them that platform, so that we're the first people who are beautifully curating whatever you have going on. We're telling that narrative in a way to really get your end user or your end customer, whoever's going to experience this product of yours in the end, to really feel and understand what you're doing it for and why you're doing it for. So I think that's our way of giving back to especially the youth, because that's something you don't know, and sometimes you just hope somebody more professional will find you and teach you that thing or show off your skill. And so we're actively looking for you. We're actively looking for those people and giving them that opportunity. And a lot of those people sometimes are youth.
Right. So, you know, you guys, you you have grown up in an age whereby everything is progressive. At least things are moving ahead. But I just want to know, what are the challenges you are facing when you are designing these projects? You think you can present a project like Zainab's project to the authorities? Do they really understand you, Zainab?
It's an interesting question. I think when well, this idea of Girl with a Book came about, it's really my own philanthropic effort in my small way, making a contribution to my community. And this is a model that can be replicated anywhere, which is, maybe work with the school, try to get a group of young girls to carve out space, read, and find a way to reward this reading. So it's really a very simple format. It doesn't anyone can do this. And actually, I'm at a stage where the idea is I've just started. So if more people want to join in and and repeat the model, all well and good. But the intention isn't looking for uh, fundraising or money. It's really a passion that I have my own interest in a particular geographical location. I put my effort, my time, some resources for this, and I think you know when the more people do this with the idea that I'm doing this for a philanthropic reason, you're better placed to continue. When you start scaling up and looking at potential partners, then you want to be able to show that this idea is sound, this idea works, and therefore, there might be a need for if we're looking to scale it up, we'll need X Y resources. And I really like hearing what Horisha was saying around her work around VUCA. It's very clear. It's it seems like a model that is already successful. And when you want to see, when you set things up for success, you set things up using your own resources, what you know you've got, and design it in a way that doesn't require external dependencies. When we're talking about scaling up, that's when you start thinking, okay, well, um, this will be an addition, but it's not going to be fundamental to the structure of what I'm doing here.
Myself here, but yeah, right. Let me ask this question. You know, I'm not saying that it is rare, but all we are saying is that so I am speaking to two young, bright women, African women here, who have been to universities. They have, maybe the question how I want to frame it is this: you're very clear in your vision. Is it because of the education that you have had from these education institutions, or is it because you have got that passion to drive to see what the Africa we want to see? Horacia.
Uh, uh, I am a product of all of my life experiences, and that includes being raised in Nairobi, moving from Nairobi to Uganda for a couple of years, and then moving into the States and just learning through different cultures, and then coming back home and being a returnee from out of Africa and back into Africa, and then also growing into the woman that I am today, and having to choose where am I going to settle. And so all those experiences of how I initially had this very traditional Kenyan foundation, and didn't know anything outside of that because I hadn't been exposed to anything outside of that. And then as I kept moving and growing and learning, whether it's through school or just my interactions, my social interactions, or my reading online. Like, for example, I'm a big online reader, so blogs and just hearing what other women globally are up to, because I believe it's a global revolution and it actually transcends color. And seeing that uprising and seeing that excitement for women to just say, you know what, this is what we're up to right now. This is how we're showing up. This is how we're claiming spaces. This is how we're creating spaces. To me, that's driving me to say, okay, I'm the ambassador for these women here. So I need to come and take this information, synthesize it to my community. And because I speak my community's language, I know the Orasia who didn't know the information that she knows today. So I know what she was missing, and I know what makes her think, and I know where she hangs out. I know where she can access information. And so my answer in a nutshell is essentially that I'm a product of all my life experiences, and because of my life experiences and things that I wish I would have known better, and I know them now, then then all I'm doing is giving that information back and making it available for other women who are behind me, ahead of me, but just have who I come to interact with. I'm making that information available. And the biggest one is the liberation part of it, and the independence, and to choose yourself respectfully and do whatever it is that you're passionate about. If it's your book project, or if it's Arisia doing her coaching, or whatever it is you're really good at, give your heart to it and really show up, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Zainab, so you are well. You see, you have got something in common. You also traveled. You are kind of globally connected. Do you share the same
I,
experience as
I
Horacia?
Harisha says it really well. Um, I'm also a product of, my collective experiences. Born in Nigeria, I lived in Nigeria until after primary school. Moved to Paris, France. Did my secondary years, my teenage years I spent there, and then since university, moved into UK for university, and since then have lived and worked in the UK. Um, you know, coming from the continent is really the hold and the uh, this umbilical cord that holds you to the continent is really powerful. And I think wherever you are around the world, there is something really special when you're rooted in Africa, when you have, like Marisha was saying, an understanding of an entire culture and an entire world through language. I also speak Hausa, and it gives you this, I like to phrase it as fantastic elasticity, so you really understand worlds. And when you're passionate about reading and you read a lot and you consume culture through reading as well, you really get into different worlds when you're able to travel. Well, 2020 and 2021 has been an unprecedented year in its restriction, but when you also get to travel the world, what you see informs your thinking, really broadens you. So I think this, and Harisha, you said it exceptionally well. So this kind of exposure makes you very global. It makes you have a breadth, but also your understanding of the culture that you come from and the context that you come from gives you a kind of depth. So when we talk about, the work that we're doing, whether in our, professional capacities or voluntary capacities, you bring all of this understanding to the table. And I think that places, a few of us, a number of us, unique to be able to speak in a language that you can access multiple worlds simultaneously. And this is really a powerful thing.
Now, Horacia, I want you to talk just briefly about varsity. What does it mean, and what does it do?
The most interesting thing about VUCA Varsity is that we actually came up with a name while driving. I was driving with my business partner maybe 2 years ago when we launched VUCA in 2018, and we were just speaking about our vision for the company and where we'd want to see it. And I remember we were on this freeway and I was just chatting about it, and I was like, no, and we'll have a school where we'll teach people. And then I named it VUCA Varsity because of the double V, and I just thought it was the coolest idea back then. But fast forward to us actually having it up on our website, I think it just shows the power of setting sustainable goals, putting things into the world, manifesting, and just believing, because what this ended up being, it was born out of the pandemic, right? And we thought, look, this is a time where people are now finally giving VUCA airtime. Everyone's going online. Everyone wants to learn about what it is to be online, how to build a business, a presence for your business online. And especially as Zainab was saying earlier, you are in the most common situation that most entrepreneurs on the continent are in, where you don't necessarily have funding. But the beauty of online is that there's so many free platforms. It's just that how can we use them to build our brands and essentially build sustainable brands that are being financed by real customers. And so that's how we got into the space, saying, okay, let's teach. And we did our first master class, which was the online business. And then we did the second one, which we just saw right now, which is how to grow and bootstrap an African digital startup. That did really, really well because it spoke to a lot of people who are faced with the situation where they want to start something, but they're always thinking, we don't have money. So what is bootstrapping in an African context? And so we have some cool classes set up for this year as well, just based on the success of those ones. And that's what the Book of Varsity is. It's basically an online space where we are just teaching people street business smarts, online street business smarts, yes, to run their businesses successfully on a little to no budget. Yeah.
You know, we are still grappling with this coronavirus pandemic, and some people uh, they're beginning to see that the pandemic, it has its negatives and it has got its positives. Of course, we know the negatives is the people dying, but let us talk about the positives. What do you think that this pandemic has brought to you? Like, say for example, me. I am a guy who sits on the computer 10 hours a day. My wife is just even given up. I just go on and on and on. I don't sit back to relax and reflect. But it has actually, the pandemic has made me realize what. Okay, I'm locked inside. I can't go anywhere. So what do? I have been going through the years, maybe 15 years of filming, and I have just realized, God, man, I have got so much content here. Every day I can be releasing content. Now I have realized that. But before that, I was just going. I'm a narrow-minded person when it comes to doing things. So, Zainab, what has been your experience? What are the positives?
You know, I think I'll answer this like in a three-prong way. Like you were saying about what the pandemic has meant personally, kind of stopping to take stock and see how you were operating before and some changes that you can make. So from a personal, perspective, I spend more time in the garden. There's less commuting time. I've turned my commuting hour into a reading hour. So it's good for my, you know, relaxation, well-being, and personal hobbies development. I think actually the girl with the book probably wouldn't have come about if it wasn't for the pandemic and the need that clearly was highlighted when girls are out of school, the horrible consequences of that, and the long standing impact it can have on communities. So, like I mentioned earlier about increased teenage pregnancies and disproportionately when these girls now stop going to school, the likelihood of them going back to education is slim. Um, so that idea of doing a small project where you encourage girls to read came about because of the pandemic. And I think from a bigger picture as well, you know, this idea of global north, global south, developing countries, not developing countries, we can see there's something that connects us all when we are all locked down, when we are all restricted from natural freedoms of association, of hugging your, family, of social interaction. So we are indeed living in a global village. And movements like Black Lives Matter happened or gathered that momentum in the way that they did because the whole world was watching and seeing what's happening in America. It's not acceptable for any human being to be treated, for their life to be asphyxiated out of them in broad daylight. Whether you're black, whether you're white, whichever corner of the world you were in, the world responded. So I think there's a global conscientiousness that was also awakened, and I hope this is also maintained. So I think there are many positive things here, and I do hope that this is a moment that the world stops, take stock, and build back better, as they say.
The girl with the book, is
Mm.
it are you still writing it, or is ready?
It's happening.
Okay.
It's happening in one school. A bunch of girls go once a month and have some food and read and discuss the book that they read. It's up to them to choose whatever book from their local library, from the
Okay.
school library.
Okay.
But it's creating that space. So
Now
it's
I
working with
understand.
one
Yeah.
school to create that space. And the idea is anybody can. I mean, it's simple. You can do it. You speak to your school, you coordinate, you give some resources, and that happens.
So, Horacia, for you, the positive has been just to come up with an innovative idea, VUCA varsity. So that is the positive, right?
Negative. No,
No, no, no.
that is
Is that the positive? That is the
no,
positive.
no, no. That is amongst the positive.
Okay.
That was the positive for 2020. For 2021,
Okay.
I also had the opportunity of launching my personal brand, arasia.com, and the new type of transformational coaching that I'm now availing to a lot of women, the same women I was speaking about earlier. And my biggest thing has just been around consistency building and accountability, because I feel that a lot of us have a lot of dreams, and I think the pandemic also just awoke us to that, to say, okay, who am I really without being allowed, being required to be at the job for 10 hours or for 9 hours a day, including commuting? Who am I really what are my passions? What can I do when I have time? What happens when I'm given that opportunity? And so for you to get those things done and to figure that out, there's an amount of discipline and commitment, and you just consistently showing up that is needed. And that's something that I've learned to build within myself, and I'm still growing in, and I want to share with other women. So that's how I was able to come up with that as well. It's a product of the pandemic. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And yeah, it's going well. If anyone's interested, they should definitely log on to arisia.com and join in
Very
that community for a
yeah.
weekly newsletter and just cool stuff. Like a girl with a book, I would definitely love to cover that and, open it up to that community of women and tell them that, yes, there's this type of thing that you could easily open up in your little communities as well. So that's my thing, just really pushing the message of, yes, you can. And for you to do it, you need to be committed to it. And this is what you're going to have to do. You can't just wish on it. You need to be active and purposeful to be able to sustainably get to your goals.
You see, now, time,
I
time.
know.
Now, okay, I want to suggest something. Always whenever I'm talking to people, whatever they are doing, because I'm up for development. I like development ideas. I like to see people who are doing things. I just want to give you a homework, and I'm just suggesting this. Why can't you guys form an International Women's Day Forum powered by AIL TV, powered by Voca.com, and powered by Zainab? I'm sure you have got your own uh, entity that you're working on, so that we can have 10 women. We can start with 5 to discuss, move things forward. Can you do that for me?
Sounds like a wonderful idea. Let's get
Y-
on with it.
That's it. That's it.
There are good
So,
things coming. There are good things
Hmm.
coming.
yes. So, all the things, you see, even on that forum, I won't even be seen. I just want to, we will have a special presenter. I will be just behind the scene switching stuff because, yes, that's all we want to see. No, I'm seriously about this, because really we are moving. Africa is getting there. We are always, as we have been discussing here earlier with Zainab, that Africa is always compared by other standards, Western standards. We have only had our independence 60 years ago, and some people feel that we are moving slow. Some people feel that we are not progressing. Some people feel that, well, we can't progress at all because we are still grappling with democracy and stuff like this. I used to criticize African countries, but I have realized after reading European democracy, I've realized that we are trying and we have got a long way to go. So if we go into summarization here, because we have spoken enough, that is very good and spot on information. And thank you very much for agreeing to be on this platform, AIL TV. Now I can see the fruits of my hard labor. Yes, how Horacia? Just summarize the Africa really you want to see.
Thank you, Jay, for having us on here today. And I just want to tell people that you can, and we need to stop waiting for somebody to save us. And we also need to stop waiting for somebody to clap for us when we do things for ourselves, which means you need to clap for yourself and you need to save yourself. And I think when we start adopting that kind of mindset change, then as you said earlier, that whatever comes in, whatever praises come in, or whatever money comes in, or that is extra, is just extra, but you are already fulfilled, and we're already moving forward as a continent, without that dependence or expectation of support. Let's be our own pillars of support, our own stamps of approval, and let us build the type of continent and community that we want.
Zainab.
Horatia, you know what? I need to come and take your coaching classes because you've articulated yet again. You've articulated this really well. Um, the kind of Africa that I want to see moving forward is an Africa where citizens are empowered and making their contributions to move their communities and continent forward. It's a kind of Africa that has its own agency, a kind of Africa that celebrates its own success, and a kind of Africa that's really taking the pen and telling its story. And I think, novels and books is one clear avenue of doing that because the stories that we read, the stories that we consume shapes our opinions. There are fantastic things that are being done on the continent, and we need to be making sure that we're telling those stories and we keep creating those fantastic things that are happening.
Well, thank you very much. I am waiting for this International Women's Forum to happen. And I'm sure. So you take your time, gather all the women who can think, and bring those who really want to come along. Let us make it happen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you have just had two bright young women. One is from Nigeria, Abuja, and one is from actually Kenya, but based in South Africa, Johannesburg. These are the kind of people we want to see more often here on AIL TV. And well, for the theme of this interview is being the Africa we want to see. That is the Africa we want to see. You see, like these two ladies, amazing. So, ladies, I will see you, and thank you very much for coming. I will see you on the International Women's Forum powered by AIL TV, VUCA.com, and Zainab. How about that?
Sure
Let's
Until
thing.
go.
Thank
then,
you.
Let's go for it.
oh yes. Until then, see you then.
See you. Thank you for having me.
Okay.